Hello and welcome back to the third and final phase of today's episode of Perspective, the action-packed youth debate show. So today the topic, just to give you a quick recap, was animal testing, and we have Team Nexus who are against and the question marks who are for. Now throughout the course of today's episode so far, we've heard quite a few arguments, such as the fact that animal testing saves human lives, but then we've heard the against side saying that it's not effective, it's a waste of money. So we've heard quite a few arguments based around the topic. But now in today's third and final phase, we have the judges round, or the judges questions round. And what's going to happen is I'm going to ask the judges to give questions to both teams equally as possible. And they're going to ask them questions based on what has been said throughout the first two phases and any questions that they might have themselves on the topic. And we're going to expect you guys to come up with an answer for the judges. So this is where you can actually impress them to try and get more points for your team. So I'm going to come straight over to the judges. We have Ahmed, Swaiba and Mahmoud. And now I'm going to ask you guys if you can give questions. And then maybe I should come to Mahmoud first.
I've got a question for Zahid. You said that an alternative could be computer modelling. Do you think computer modelling can produce results that are more accurate than testing on animals that are more than 98% identical to humans in some of their DNA and genetics?
Oh, Zahid, would you like to use the mic?
So for example, I want to bring up a case. So monkeys are the most similar to humans. So we expect that in animal testing, whilst if they're testing on monkeys, we should get precise or the closest results to us humans. So in 2006, there was a clinical trial where a human being tried a drug which nearly almost killed him. And that drug was used on the monkey for animal testing 500 times the dose. So this shows even when the dose is at 500 times and tested multiple times on a monkey, which is the most similar animal to us humans, and yet we get negative results, and results that could have led to someone dying, shows how it's not like right, and it's not going to give us the great results we need. Whereas computer modeling is just as accurate. It doesn't harm much as animal testing, and we still can get good results.
Okay, Mahmoud,
cool.
you happy with that?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get another question from the judges. Swaiba?
I have a question for the question marks. So you guys mentioned at the beginning that like a lot of animal testing is done on pests, which a lot of the time we want to get rid of anyway. But you just mentioned that monkeys are tested on, rabbits in certain cases are tested on. I want to ask, where do we draw the line? Like how are we supposed to come to the decision that a rat's life is worth less than a rabbit's life or ours? Like, just morally, how are we supposed to decide those things?
Okay, so a variety of animals are tested on, not just pests like rats. So how do the scientists decide which life is more valuable than which?
I think that some animals are more abundant than others, so animals that are more abundant should be valued less than endangered species.
So are you happy with that? Okay, abundant animals. So just let's get another question from the judges. So Ahmed, let's have you.
I have a question for the against side, Nexus. You mentioned there is a massive difference between humans and animals, which means that any animal testing we do is not accurate. Does that suggest that we should be using humans to test new medicines and new drugs to make sure that they're accurate? And does that also mean that we should risk their lives in doing so?
So yeah, animals and humans may be similar, but the way they react to the environment psychologically or behaviorally is very different. And also, when we say to put humans into trials, humans are already tested. They already put their lives at risk. They volunteer to do this because they want to advance mankind. So when we get rid of animal testing, there are so many different other techniques that we can replace it with. We can ensure safety for the humans that do it, and they know that they're putting their lives at risk. So why not just kill a little bit less and put a little, like just kill a little less.
Okay, so Ahmed, just kill a little less.
Yeah.
You happy with that?
Yeah, will do.
Okay, judges, anyone going to volunteer now, or do I have to pick you out again?
Sure, I can go.
Go on, Mahmood.
So you mentioned, you kept saying you've got alternatives. So apart from Kimbi's model, which I'm still not convinced with, because they messed up so many other things, what are the alternatives? So we've had stem cells, but in terms of testing on humans with safety, how can we ensure that, and what are the alternatives?
I'm going to give you a case study. So they had an experiment on rats, hamsters, guinea pigs and a bunch of other animals where they were testing glass fibers and the effect they have. They found no link between glass fibers and cancer on the animals, but when they tested on human skin cells, an in vitro test, they realized that it's actually glass fibers are cancerous. Obviously an in vitro test is literally just a test tube test. It involves no animals, no killing, and it was more effective. Computer modelling has also been proven to be more effective and is cheaper, and we actually researched this on peter.org. So it has been proven to be more effective, it's more practical.
Masuma, I just wanted to ask, you said about cells and testing on cells, but what happens when there's a medicine being developed which affects an organ, which can be made of many different types of cells, or a whole body system, such as the digestive system or the circulatory system? What happens then?
Computer models can literally replicate entire systems. Stem cells, you can use stem cells to create like a type of cell that you want. Based off of that, you can make somewhat of a prediction, move it onto computer models, which are a lot more in detail, more precise, and replicate entire systems. And then if you want, you can go into human testing on some, say you're trying to cure cancer, surely it would be better trying experimenting on a person with cancer rather than experimenting on an animal, which like there's no, you don't know what it's going through.
Okay, thank you very much. And I'm going to take just 2 more questions from the judges, then we're going to come and move on to the final part of actually deciding who has won. So, Swiber, do you have a question?
I'd like to know what the question marks think of these alternatives. I mean, maybe, well, I think we can all agree that in the past, animal testing might have been the only thing that we could have gone to help ourselves and to, find cures and things like that. But as we are advancing more and more, we are in the 21st century, is it necessary?
So, what do you guys think about computer modelling and stem cell?
Human and animals also share hundreds of illnesses. So, for example, rabbits suffer from hardening of arteries and birth defects, and dogs suffer from cancer, diabetes, bleeding disorders. And scientists don't only look at how the animal behaves, but they also look at how the body deals with it and how the immune system responds and who gets affected.
Okay, but so you said that animals are quite similar, but don't you think computer modelling can have the same effect because you can just completely make out what's going on inside a human and not an animal?
The animals are also live, so they can see exactly how the body will deal with the problem and the diseases.
Okay.
Yeah.
One last question, so I'm going to come back to you, Ahmed.
So I have a question again for Nexus Team Against. Earlier in the programme you mentioned many religions that value animal life and the lives of animals, but do you think that counters with a lot of views that religions have about the sanctity of life and the value of life, and how actually we should, if the two come in sort of opposition of each other, we should value lives, humans' lives over animal life?
So there's this theory which is the natural chain of being, where it's natural for humans to come before animals. And yeah, maybe a lot of people, a lot of religions may value humans over animals, but yet a lot of religions are against torturing animals and killing them. Testing on animals isn't even just killing them, it's literally torturing them to death, starving them, keeping them in cages. When religions talk about sacrificing animals, we kill them straight away, and that is very different from what we do during animal testing. We're literally blinding the animals, cutting off their heads, inspecting their brains. It's just like, it's not morally right, it's just savagery.
Okay, thank you very much. So I think that brings an end to the judges' questions round, and now we're going to move on to the final part, the decision. So I'm going to ask the 3 judges just to, quickly confer with each other and come up on both the winning team, of course, but also a Best Speakers Award. So who you feel out of the 6 contestants today spoke the best and you would like to give the Best Speaker Award to. And remember, they don't have to be on the winning team. So judges, if you could start discussing. So as we can see from today's episode, we've had a very, very action-packed episode. We've had 2 very strong teams, Nexus and the Question Marks, who have come up with very, very strong arguments, and as we can see, we've had a very back and forth debate, a very entertaining one, as I may say so myself. So, animal testing, we had quite a few arguments which kept on coming up again, such as its lack of effectiveness, but also at the same time how it saves many lives. So we've had Team Nexus and the Question Marks, but the question which still lingers over us right now is who was the winning team, and the judges are deciding right now, as we can see. So let's just wait for their decision. Okay, so the judges have decided on both the best speaker and the winning team for today's debate. And before they say that, I just want to say to both teams, you did very, very well. And I think even if you're on the losing side, I think you can leave the studio with your head held high, because you guys did come up with some very, very good arguments. So can I ask the judges first to review who was the best speaker for today's show?
For best speaker, we've chose Ikra from the Question Marks.
Okay, so Ikra, well done. You were today's best speaker. I must say I was impressed as well with the way that she spoke very boldly and very loudly. So well done, well done to Ikra. And now the main decision. Can I ask the judges to tell us who the winning team was for this preliminary round show of Perspective on the topic of animal testing?
So as you can tell, it was very, very tough, and we had a bit of disagreement in the in the judges' camp about who won. Very, very difficult. Question Marks did really well in phase 2, but we just thought that the Zahid and Co just edged it.
So Team Nexus.
Team Nexus, I forgot the team number.
So Team Nexus, well done. You are today's winners, and so congratulations to Team Nexus. Commiserations to the Question Marks. But well done. You guys did have some very, very strong arguments, and you had many facts and statistics to back it up. So deservedly, you guys are today's winner. Just quickly before we leave, I'm going to ask the judges very, very briefly, as briefly as possible, guys, to just give a short bit of advice to maybe the losing team and maybe the winning team on what they could improve on for if they were to come back next time. So Ahmed, if I could ask you quickly, just
don't be afraid to consult each other before you respond.
Okay, thank you. Swaiba?
More evidence, just more, loads, because
Okay.
it's impressive.
Just like Ahmed said, just make sure, before you come to arguments, to consult each other before doing so.
So you guys know now, for next time, especially you guys, you're heading off to the quarterfinals of Perspective. But you guys know now, next time, if you ever find yourself back here on Perspective, always talk to your teammates before you come up with a response, and also make sure you bring lots and lots of evidence, which I think Team Nexus did do. So that brings us to the end of another fantastic episode of Perspective. Today's topic was animal testing, and both Team Nexus and the Question Marks had some fantastic arguments, but we leave today's episode with Team Nexus the winners. So once again, congratulations to you guys, and we'll catch you guys in the next episode.